Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to this live in the sense that you can ask questions live and view it live, recording of the Curious Cube podcast. My name is Catherine Kosin. I'm with the competitions department at the MAA. And so the Curious Cube came about through, if you're not familiar with it, we have something called the Math Olympiad program each summer. We call it MAP. It's a camp where the students who do really well on the USAMO and the USAJMO, or our national math level competition, are selected to go, and also we train our International Math Olympiad team there. And so we wanted a way to keep these students involved, and so we started, or also they actually came forward, the original podcast hosts, Luke, Holden, and Isabella, wanted to give back, and so they started the Curious Cube podcast in partnership with us. And then they all were in college at a certain point, and kind of were all wanted to move on. And so we got some new hosts for this podcast who are also involved in MOP and the Olympiad level. And so we have, and so I'll let them introduce themselves and say a few words, and then we'll have a lot of time for questions from the audience. So let's start. I guess let's start with or do you want to start?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So let's take it away. Take it away.
Yeah. So as Catherine said, we're some of the hosts of the Curious Cube, which is the MAA's student-run podcast. We've all never been to MathFest before, so we're really excited to be here. I guess I'll start by introducing myself, and then I'll let Laura and Emily go. I'm Srinivas. I'm a rising college freshman from near Denver, Colorado. I've been doing math competitions since middle school with math counts, and then later the AMC series, and as Catherine said, I attended MOP, the Math Olympiad program, in 2022. Since then, I've also been doing some math research, and I've just tried to stay involved with the community. So that's a bit about me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura. I'm also a rising college freshman, and I'm from Virginia. And I've been doing math competitions since middle school as well. And then I was really involved in the AMC program, and then I was also really involved in my local math community through my high school's math team, which I captain, which is also super fun.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a rising senior from upstate New York. I've done math competitions since elementary school, and I've had a lot of fun stories and experiences in the math community. I also went to MOB in 2023 and 2024, and yeah, I'm really excited to share some of my experiences.
Yeah. So the Curious Cube is a podcast that was started a couple years ago. As Catherine said, you might have seen the previous hosts, Luke, Holden, and Isabella, but now we're in season 3, and we've recorded a lot of new and exciting topics.
Yeah, so many of our topics are inspired by viewer-submitted questions, and so some of the topics we've already recorded include building a math community, summer math opportunities, and our own personal journeys with math.
Yeah, also the Curious Cube actually has 5 hosts. There's also Ben and Isaac, who aren't here right now, but B and Ben have our individual segments, and some of the things that Ben's segment focuses on are specific math concepts. So some things you guys can look forward to are segments on the concept of infinity, game theory, and cryptography. My segment focuses more on interviewing students, teachers, and professionals, and asking them how math changed their lives. I also take a peek into the math community and show what's going on. For example, recently I interviewed the IMO team, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and so through these different segments, we hope to connect with middle school and high school students interested in math in a more personal and engaging way by sharing some of our own experiences with the broader student community.
And so now that we've kind of introduced ourselves and what we do, we'd like to just open the floor to any questions that the audience may have.
Yeah, we're also being live streamed right now, so yeah, it's...
So I did want to have an initial question. What have you thought about MathFest so far? What are some of the things you enjoyed being at MathFest since it's your first time?
I think something that's really cool is that it's a place where I can meet up with a lot of the friends I've made being in the math community. It's a place where we can all meet up and do a lot of cool math activities together. Some of the fun things that we did together, we actually made this like Rubik's Cube array with like 49 Rubik's Cubes, and it was kind of like a rainbow pattern, so that was a lot of fun. We also did this like maze, which had like numbers on them, and we had to like figure out how to get to the end and finish. So it was just really fun to work on those puzzles with a lot of the friends I made, and finally get to see them in person.
Yeah, something else I think is really cool about MathFest is like this is also like my first ever math conference in general, and so being able to like see all the really cool math that like older people are working on that like they've spent their entire career like focusing on maybe like these like one or two subjects, and it's really interesting to see like all these niche topics. So yesterday I went to like this talk on basically like illusions in math, and so basically I've seen a lot of optical illusions in my life before, but I've never really looked at them from the perspective of like perspective. So like the angle you're looking at the illusion like changes how you see it, and I've never thought about it like illusions in a more geometric lens. So I thought that was super fascinating.
Yeah, I'll second what both Emily and Laura said. Like, I've had a great time meeting people I've known from math contests, from MOP and other things. And I've also had a great time at the events. Like, for example, today morning I went to something about Rubik's Cubes, where they're talking about how they can figure out how to make a shorter move strategy that is also possible for humans to find, which is hard because computers can do it really quickly, but humans can't. I thought that was really interesting. And there's just a lot of different variety of things you can experience here that you wouldn't really find gathered together anywhere else.
All right, I have another question, but does anyone have any questions first? Okay, so another question I have is so obviously making some memories here, what is a favorite math memory? It doesn't have to be your all-time favorite, but just something that comes to mind you look fondly on for, either inside or outside of the classroom.
So I guess for me, a lot of my favorite math memories come from captaining my school's math team. So we do like a lot of really like crazy things, I guess, since like, so for example, we have like this tradition where somebody gives like a bunch of numbers and like somebody gives like a bunch of outputs, and you're supposed to like guess what function those like numbers make. And sometimes we have like really crazy ones, like you get like a person's name and like some random word, and you're supposed to like guess the relationship. Maybe it's like favorite color or like birth date or something like that. So it's really fun like that. And then we also get to go to like travel competitions, and I think the in-person aspect of having like a local community is really important for me, and it's something that you sometimes don't get a lot just through like AMCs. So I think it's really important that we can come together and like group solve these problems together. A lot of the times, like after an AMC, we'll like do all the problems together and like review them. So even if like we didn't personally perform well on that one day, coming together afterwards and being able to like collaborate and see maybe where we made mistakes, but also like where we actually came up with a creative solution, I think that's super fun and rewarding.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my favorite math experience also has to do with like math competitions. Like for example, like after AMC contests, it's just a lot of fun, like just discussing with the people around you. It's really like, I remember sometimes we had like in-person Olympiads, and after that, talking about the problems together, seeing if you solved it. I think it's just a lot of excitement in the room, and I really like that type of feeling.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like some of my best math memories come from in-person experiences, like either travel contests, like Laura mentioned, or also like summer programs, like MOP. And it's just that, like when you have so many people who are interested in the same things as you are, even just like regular conversations you have on a day-to-day basis become like really fun because you can bring up these shared experiences that you have. You can talk about the problems that you've both been doing, and just having that like shared, that collective memory is, I think, really cool.
Okay, well, you mentioned community, and part of that sometimes involves role models, people that you look up to. So, can you share some of the role models that inspired you in mathematics?
So I can start this one. As I mentioned, I really started math contests in like 6th grade. I joined this club in my middle school where we met like an hour every week just to practice and then prepare for the contests. And I think like the most valuable thing I gained from this club was not like any knowledge, but just like the people who were running it were high schoolers from my area, and I got to know them like very well through the contest that we were doing. And over the next few years, I got to know them well over other events as well. And I kind of followed their path throughout high school. Like they went on to do that AMC series and the Amy, and one of them made MOP and other programs as well that I've really taken a lot of inspiration just from knowing that it's possible because I know people really well who've done the exact same thing. And just having them be there as role models really inspired me to continue.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. One of my role models was like Vivian. She was like one of my friends in the like early on in like the online and like on AOPS, and she like really inspired me because she was like one of my friends and I could really relate to her. I feel like a lot of the times you see all these people achieving really cool things in math, and then it's more like it kind of feels a little bit disconnected because it's hard to imagine yourselves where they are, but when it's a friend who does it, it's relatable, and it also is really inspiring seeing them do so many cool things. So yeah, she was definitely one of my inspirations.
I think for me, it was somebody at my school. Her name is Isabella, and she was actually at MathFest last year. And so when I was like an underclassman, she was one of the co-captains of our math team, and so I really looked up to her just for that. Another thing I looked up for her is she went to MOP in the same year I did, and so when I first went to MOP, like I didn't really know what was going on. Like this is my first time at like a residential summer camp, let alone like a math program. And so this is like her second time, I think, so she was already a little more experienced, and so she sort of like guided me through and like helped me out. And then like if I couldn't solve a problem sometimes, she would like help me out and solve it, which I thought that was really helpful. And so I think just having someone there that I could like trust and rely on and like a friendly face, I think that really helped me like believe in myself like at MOP. And I think because at MOP you do like so much math, and it was like, it can be a little overwhelming sometimes because you don't really do that much math like in a single day like during the school year. But I think having someone there who went through the same thing I did and who could like help me through that, I thought that was super special.
Okay, so it looks like we have at least another question.
Hi guys, what impact do you hope your podcast will have to other students that listen to you?
So I'll start with like one of the main impacts we want to have is just getting more people into it. So we covered, or we will soon cover an episode about like how to start others like how to get others to join the math community, even when you might live in a place without many resources or like a long history of doing this sort of thing. We want to inspire people to get involved because there are definitely a lot of ways, like especially like online communities nowadays, where you can just start out even if you have no experience, and you can find people who are willing to help you and people who will answer your questions. And so we definitely hope to cover some of those resources and where you can find them.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of about like helping students find their math community and finding people they can relate to. I think just having a math community for someone is a really big motivator. Personally, I found that having my own math community, it really motivated me to do math. And yeah, basically, if you can't find it in person, you can try to make one, or you can also find ones online. And we hope that our podcast can motivate people to find these people.
Yeah, so through the Curious Cube, we really try to make math like more exciting for everyone. So you have the more technical aspect through like Ben's segment, like he actually discusses these abstract math ideas, but he sort of makes them understandable like at a middle school and high school level, so like anyone can approach these new ideas. And then we also talk about like community, and I think that's really important to us. So I think both the community and the like finding math interesting and fun aspect, I think combining those two together, we just really want to show how diverse math is, because I think a lot of the times people think math is like scary or like unapproachable, but we want to show that math is actually really engaging and it can be a really great experience for everyone.
And going off of that, like another thing we want to emphasize is that math is really like, it's just a form of creative problem solving. It's not like anything special about like the symbols you're writing down or like the formulas like you're using. The reason we all love math is because it requires us to like manipulate ideas in our mind in a very specific way. And we can like develop intuitions over time. And it's a very creative process. And I think if more people understood that, more people would love math as well.
Okay, well, your response just there made me think of another question. Just what is your favorite, I know it's hard to think of like a favorite problem, but like what is a favorite topic or brand area of math? Like when you're looking at a competition math, which kind of problem makes you go, oh yes, you know, you're excited to answer it and you find it more engaging?
I really like combo questions. I think they're really interesting. A lot of the different frameworks are very puzzle-like, and a lot of the times you can like break down the structure and really understand it. It also often has like pretty funny flavor text, so it seems like you're solving like a game or something like that. And I just find the questions really interesting to work on and think about, and yeah, it's really fun to play around with.
So I tend to gravitate towards questions that I can like think about without paper, which can apply to like a lot of different types of questions, but especially when there's like just some sort of like weird structure in the problem and you have like no clue how to think about it, but then like you just try to come up with a way for your brain to understand it, and like maybe that'll involve like some image or some process that's occurring, and then using your representation of the problem, you can try to gain some information. So even though it initially looks like completely intractable, maybe if you just shift your perspective or think about it as happening in a slightly different way, you can gain more information. So I really like that like visual aspect.
Yeah, so something similar to that, my favorite like genre is this thing called geometric probability. So it's basically like, let's say you're like generating a random number from like 0 to 1. That's technically like infinite possibilities, but you can like represent that like on a number line by like 0 to 1 of a distance 1. And I think that's super cool. Like you can transform these like probability questions like into geometry questions. And I feel like those don't really seem like something that are connected, like probability and geometry. But I think like I've done a lot of geometric probability problems, and like I think it's just really fascinating how you can represent probability as like distances or like areas or volumes. And I think I've never thought of that before doing like math competitions.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's really cool when a problem shows you like how different math topics are like kind of connected. There's a lot of like different like topics that you might not think, like maybe like geometry and complex numbers. Like they're actually very closely connected, and I think it's really cool when a problem shows you that.
Okay, we've got a couple questions. I'll go over here first. Okay. All right.
All right. Hello, guys. I feel that in math contests, there's a lot of trial and error in the sense that you don't win every single math contest you end up taking. A lot of times you do end up facing setbacks that can sometimes be demotivating. So I'm just curious, what are some of the setbacks and like challenges you guys found in your math contest experiences, and how did you guys get over them?
So for me, I think a big hurdle was getting into Olympiad math. So for those who don't know, Olympiads are kind of like the last stage of math contests, at least in the US. And they are like really long contests where you have to write proofs to answer the questions instead of just writing down an answer, like a number. And so I probably started doing this around COVID. I actually definitely like invested a lot of time preparing and like for a couple of years, but it just didn't seem like my results were like at all related to my preparation. Like it just felt like I was just doing like practice for no reason, like it wasn't getting me anywhere. And so I kind of definitely at that point felt a little demotivated, like why am I even doing this? Like it was fun, but it didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. And so the way I kind of got through this, I just like took a break. I didn't feel like doing more practice, so I just didn't. And luckily, like, even though it might not seem like your practice is helping you at that exact moment, like over time, your experience definitely does help. And that's something I've learned. Just like even though you can't directly see the results at like whatever moment you're in right now, you're still building intuitions that will help you later. And once I realized that, I started enjoying it more.
Yeah, I feel like almost every single like person who's done math competitions has probably gotten a result that they weren't really happy about. But I think something that really helps is to kind of put things into perspective. Like, just one bad score isn't what like math competitions brought you. Math competitions bring you a lot more than just scores. They give you like problem-solving abilities, and they also give you such a great community. And usually when if I feel discouraged by a score, I talk with my friends from like various like communities, like online and in person, and they kind of like maybe they show me a problem that I think is really cool, or we just talk about like some problems, and that really helps me like become inspired and motivated again. And also a lot of times it's just like fear of missing out. With a lot of people working on a problem, I just want to work on it with them, and that definitely helps to get back into math.
Yeah, so I think for me, confidence was a big thing. So I think like 2 years ago when I was in 10th grade, the cutoffs for the USA Junior Math Olympiad, they came out like really, really late that year. I think like maybe like 3 days before the actual contest. So I wasn't like expecting to, like that wasn't really on my mind, but then I found out like I actually made it. So I had like 3 days to prepare for like this 4.5 hour long contest. So I was just like, I didn't even know what I was doing. And so this is like the first time I really experienced like Olympiad problems. So I like looked at these problems and I was supposed to solve them with like a proof, and I had like a lot of hours to do them when I was used to like maybe solving a math problem like 5 to 10 minutes maybe. And so like it was definitely a pretty daunting experience, and I think that, like Srinivas said, proofs are like definitely a big challenge. And I think something that helped me is just realizing that even though like this idea of proofs may be new to me, like the mathematical ideas were not like that new. Like I had learned about maybe say like geometry, I knew like how to chase angles maybe. I just never like had to write that out and formalize that. But like I knew I could do it. I did it in other problems before. And just because this problem maybe involved like more involved angle chasing, or I had to chase like angles around a bigger diagram with like a lot more points, I'd done it on a smaller scale, and so that meant I could do it at a larger scale too. And so I think just believing that I could do it, and sometimes I ended up like solving a problem, sometimes I didn't end up solving it, but I think like just having the confidence to like even make like partial progress, I think is really important. And I think that's something that Olympiads value, like they give partial points, so even if you don't fully solve a problem, just by like trying and like showing your work and having some thought process, I think that's really special and something that I think is rightly valued.
I definitely agree with you guys how like sometimes like math intuition, it's built in a really weird way. Like sometimes you'll do a lot of problems and feel like, oh, I don't really know what I'm growing from this. But after a bit, I feel like sometimes I do a problem and then some of the steps feel natural to me. And even sometimes I look back and I'm like, how did I even think of that? It's just like the intuition I've built over time. And that can't always be measured, but it's happening subconsciously.
All right, here's another question.
Okay, you guys are great. When I was growing up, I graduated from high school in 1979, and I really never had, I wasn't pushed that much in high school, and I never had a collaborative experience until after I got my PhD and I co-authored a paper. So hopefully there aren't kids like me anymore. But how would you sell the idea of collaborating in mathematics to other people who might be a bit isolated.
So I think, first of all, it's really important to have people around you who like care. And for that, like, it's definitely hard, depending on where you're from and what type of community you're part of. But I do think, as I was saying before, like, nowadays, like, you can find a huge community online. And I think Isaac, who's not here, has talked a lot about how he like spent a lot of time during COVID doing these online contests with people not from his area, just people whom he knew online. And I think that type of thing is definitely becoming a lot more possible nowadays. And I've had some experiences like that as well. There's this thing called like group solving, where you can just work on these hard problems together, even though you're not in the same area, just like over like a voice channel. Yeah, so I think that's definitely one part of the answer, is just utilizing the online platforms more.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, that was how I really first got into math. It was like during COVID, where I met like some other people online, and we would do a bunch of team contests together. And I actually grew really close to them that way, because we would do so much math together. And even when we were not doing competitions, we would do problems together. They would show us a cool problem, and we would all try it together. That's why I think finding your own math community can be really beneficial. Just having other people that have the same experiences. Like, maybe not a lot of people take the AMCs at your school, so it might feel a little bit isolating being the only one doing it. But I think it's so amazing that like you can find these people online, and a lot of them will become like some of your like closest friends, which I think is really cool. I actually did meet Isaac first online. We actually both like co-ran a competition together, and that was a really fun experience.
Yeah, so I think another great resource are teachers. So maybe even if like the students around you, maybe they're not super interested in math, I think if you have a really good math teacher, that helps a lot. Like, I think when I was younger, like in elementary school, like sometimes I would like finish my like math worksheet a little earlier than other people. And like I had my 5th grade teacher, she would like give me more problems to do, and I thought that was super fun. And then she also like did these like math games with us, which I thought was also super exciting. Like, they were sort of like speed games, and it was like, I thought that was a super fun experience. And she like continued to motivate me to like continue doing math, like as I got older, like to join like the elementary school club in math. And then eventually like I carried that on and continued like doing math clubs and like later on math competitions throughout middle school and high school. And so I think that teachers are also like really great motivation, and they're also like really interesting. They have, like, I'm sure like they know a lot of math too, and so they can like also share like new math ideas with you, so.
So some of you said that you're off to college in the fall. How has this math community kind of helped you figure out what you want to do and kind of help prepare you?
Yeah, so I'm going to college next year. I think one of the biggest things the math community has done is just now I have people I know in college, and I know I can reach out to them if I'm ever having trouble or if I want to talk about something, and it's definitely great to have that when living on your own. I also think that my experience like problem solving, even if it's just like in these high school contests, has given me more confidence that I can like learn college level math and I can succeed in it, and that's definitely what I'm planning to study as of now.
Yeah, so I'm also headed off to college actually in like a week, so that's like pretty intimidating but also exciting, I guess. And I'm also planning on majoring in math. I think I want to do like applied math, which I guess is like, it's like pretty different than math competitions. But I think like the problem solving skills I learned throughout math competitions and like by engaging with the math community, I think like that's definitely helped me. So I think like a lot of the same ideas of like problem solving, of like taking this like abstract idea, because I think a lot of the times in applied math, there's like no right answer since you're trying to like model real world phenomena, and that's like pretty messy a lot of the times. But I think being able to like approach these daunting problems like with confidence, and also just being able to break that down into like smaller parts and then solve those individual parts and then put the final result together, I think that's something I definitely learned throughout math contests. For example, like Olympiad problems, you're supposed to solve them in like an extended time frame, and so you can't just like you have to like take multiple stabs at it, and you have to try out like multiple different approaches. And I think being able to like try again, and then even if something doesn't work, try again, and maybe that'll work. I think just like persevering and then finding like an optimal solution. I think that's something I learned.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to college next year, but I'm going to college in 2 years. I think just doing problem solving, it's made me learn that I really like problem solving and thinking creatively. And it's also, as Srinivas said, I think seeing that how problem solving can tackle some really hard questions, I think that's given me like confidence that I can also use problem solving and creative thinking to solve like the bigger problems of the world. And I definitely want to use that framework of thinking when I go to college and beyond.
Are you also thinking of majoring in math, Emily?
Yeah, I definitely want to do a math in college, and I think math is very powerful for all different subjects.
So I guess I know you guys two of you are excited about going off to college next year. Emily, what are you excited for in the next school year? And I guess what, besides going to college, Srinivas and Laura, what kinds of things are you excited about in the upcoming school year?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's nice that I get to do like math competitions for another year. I also want to explore some higher maths and other sciences, apply problem solving there, and see what that's like.
One thing I'm excited for, apart from college, is getting a chance to like kind of give back to the contests that I took a lot in high school. Like, I recently got into problem writing a little bit, and I definitely want to continue doing this and maybe proposing problems back to high school contests, or like reviewing problems or helping out in that way. I just think it would be a really rewarding experience.
Yeah, so I think a great thing about like the math competition community, like even though the contests are only for like middle school and high school, it doesn't just stop like after that. So like the MAA has like another contest called the Putnam, and I think that seems like really cool because it involves like more college level math, and I think that's really interesting, like being able to combine these ideas of like higher math with like the problem solving I've done throughout middle school and high school. I think that seems really fun, and it's a little intimidating, definitely, to have to use because like college math, it's definitely different than stuff I've done in high school, but I'm also really excited to just learn more ideas and being able to like apply that through like the Putnam competition, or even like in different sectors, so like maybe using math in like other fields like physics or like chemistry or biology. Like I think that would be super interesting, and so I think just like making math more interdisciplinary, I think I'm really excited about that.
Okay, well, I had a few questions here.
So I would just like to ask some fast-paced questions. So these are like one-word answers. So to start this off, what is your favorite color?
My favorite color is pink.
I like purple.
Blue.
What's your favorite movie or TV show?
Inception.
Suits.
Kung Fu Panda.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
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 What's your favorite theorem or whatever?
I'm not sure if I can narrow it down to one.
I've been doing like multivariable calculus lately since I had a test recently on it, so I guess like, I don't know, like Stokes' theorem or something.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about this one either.
Linear or non-linear?
Linear.
Linear?
Linear.
What's your favorite shape?
A circle.
A star.
A heart.
What's your favorite fruit?
Peaches.
Mangoes.
A cantaloupe.
Favorite vegetable?
Cucumbers.
Zucchini.
Carrots.
Awesome. It's great I appreciate getting to know you guys better because, right, we're all people. It's not just about math. So, and we have another question over here.
What advice would you give to somebody who's looking to learn more like lower level introductory competition math?
I would say, like, find people to do contests with. So if you can just like get a group of like 2 or 3 people, there are a lot of like team things you can participate in. Like in middle school, there's math counts, which has a team element. There are also a bunch of like college contests where you can travel in high school. So even if you have no experience, I think you can definitely still like try these team contests. And the other thing I would say is take advantage of online resources. Like I've said this a lot, but the art of problem solving is a really good place for this. You can see a lot of past contest problems on there. There are also forums where you can like ask questions if you're stuck. They also have courses, which I did a few of those and they're pretty good. They have books, so that's like one really good resource. And of course, like MAA content as well. Like the MAA has a bunch of books that would be helpful, and the contest series as well.
Yeah, I think something I would say is to reflect on the problems you do. I feel like especially when you're younger, the questions are very fast-paced. It's like, do this many questions in this many minutes. And I feel like a lot of times we're just problem after problem. We don't really see like what's going on in each problem. At least when I was young, I kind of saw math competitions as a game where I'll try to like figure out each question as quick as possible and go to the next one. But I think at some point I started reflecting on the problems and I found, wow, these questions are really beautiful. There's a lot to them. I think that problem writers, and there was a panel this morning about how like problem writers like wrote their problems and the different parts of it. And I think each problem writer puts something special in each problem, and reflecting on that and seeing that, I think that's beneficial for first making connections in your head about different topics, but also just to see the beauty of math and kind of like step back and take a look.
I think like consistency is definitely a big thing. I think like sort of like a game, but I thought of like math competitions sort of like as a sport. Like it requires like consistent practice. And I think that's because a lot of the stuff you see in math competitions, they're new. Like it's stuff like you wouldn't see in like your math classroom, for example. And so it takes like a little bit to get used to. But like I think once you get used to it, I think you just have to know when to apply that like to a certain problem. And that just comes from like consistent practice. And I think like, at least for like my school's math team, like there's a lot of students who started out like in high school who had like never done math competitions before, but like they came to math team like every single week and like they would like learn these concepts. Like we as like older students would like help teach them the concepts, and then like they would definitely see improvement like after a few weeks, after like months, and then they would be able to like improve their scores on competitions. But I think that just requires like consistency, and I think a big part, like Srinivas said, of consistency is just like having people to like with you to like motivate you. And so at least for me, that's what math team provided for me. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Laura says. It's kind of like a sport where like intuition kind of feels like muscle memory, where a lot of times you do problems, you implicitly get these different connections, like kind of like how your muscles just like know what to do or something. So just practicing a lot, you'll find yourself improve, even if it doesn't like seem like that right away. It's still implicitly happening.
Okay, great. I did want to mention, yes, you can purchase competitions going back decades, like before the AMC 8 was AMC 8, it had a different name and all that, from the MAA's website. You made me think of another question. You mentioned problem writing, seeing the panel. Do you all enjoy problem writing? And if so, what's like kinds of problems do you like to write?
So for me, as part of my math team, we like host a middle school competition. So at least for me, the problems I've written before have mostly been targeted towards like a middle school audience. And I think these are like, we usually try to target middle school students who like have never done math before. Like the competition is supposed to introduce students to like competition math. And so I think this is definitely like a challenge, like how you can make like competition style problems that aren't daunting. Because for example, like in my district at least, like middle school students like don't necessarily take geometry, so we can't really have like advanced geometry problems in them. But we still want to incorporate like some geometry. And so I think it's definitely a challenge of like balancing difficulty and balancing like student interest, because we want to make the problems like fun and interesting and definitely something they haven't seen before. So this is like a lot of back and forth between like the teachers and us, but I think it's definitely super rewarding because these problems like the problems like got me interested in math competitions, like just fun, interesting, hard problems. And so I think being able to provide that for younger students and hopefully like inspire them to do math competitions too, I think that's definitely really fulfilling.
So I don't have like too much experience with this, but the experience I have is mostly in writing Olympiad problems. And for this, I just say like, I kind of just tried to experiment with things in my head. Like, oh, like this type of problem has never been made before. I wonder whether you could make some nice statement about that. So again, like this is like, I'm still very new to this, but it's been pretty fun just to have like complete freedom to make whatever you want and see if it turns into a nice problem.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mentioned before that me and Isaac were part of like a team that like made competitions for elementary and middle schoolers, and it like ran online a few times. I think something I'd like to do when I make problems is if I made a connection between two different topics, I really want to try putting that in a problem, so whoever does the problem can also make that connection in their brain. I think something I really like about it is seeing everyone's reactions to our problems. Like maybe they thought it was nice, maybe they got trolled by it. But I like to see how everyone else like approached my problem, and seeing their solutions is really interesting, and seeing their reactions to it.
So I know Laura mentioned a bit about like writing problems that are more directed towards people who are starting out with competition math. So if you have any advice to give people in general on how to start competition math, like is it ever too late, or is there anything that you would start doing to get more involved?
So I don't think I want to say like it's never too late. Like there is a point at which like if you start, you're probably not going to get as far as you wanted to, just because most contests are in high school and there's just not enough time. Like every year there's a new season. But I don't think that should be the goal. The goal shouldn't be just like get as far as you can. The goal should be like try to learn about problem solving, and maybe this will inspire you to learn more math later. And because like math contests aren't even like real math. Just because you've done the math contests and you've done really well in them doesn't mean you will just automatically know like all of the math you're going to learn in college and just automatically succeed in everything else. But what I do think is that all of us here agree that just the experience of struggling through the problem and realizing that we could approach even really difficult problems, that experience, that courage is what is really important going forward. And I don't think you need to get very far to get that courage.
Yeah, definitely. Math competitions bring a lot more than just scores. Like that, I think scores can be a metric to like see how much math you've like learned. But I think the better metric is like seeing your problem solving, especially for proofs. I think proofs are very powerful for like helping you learn how to rigorize your ideas, which is important in a lot of higher math. Like making your ideas into equations and into things that can be proved, and just that type of logical reasoning.
Yeah, I think another piece of advice is like just put yourself out there. Like take competitions, like even if you don't think you're ready per se, like just try and like see what happens, because you don't have to like necessarily train. Like a lot of the problems like on these math contests, like you can solve without like having lots of practice. Like they just involve concepts maybe you've learned in your classes, just applied in a different way. You can like attend like conferences like MathFest and like meet other young students like interested in math. You can go to like travel competitions maybe, or like I think at least when I was younger, I attended like local math circles as well. So I think just putting yourself out there, like even if like you don't feel you're the most experienced, or even if you don't feel like you know enough math, I think just trying, and then eventually once you keep trying, you'll eventually like come to the point where you do like know a significant amount of math, and then at this point you'll feel a lot more confident and be ready to like put yourself out there even more.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Laura. Like, if you look at the math competitions, they only cover like high school math, and it's not like they have some like crazy like higher math topics. All of this should be like covered in like classes you took at school. The reason they're hard though is that they go very deep. You have to think like many levels, make a lot of connections, but it's still like you still can like try them and approach them and build that type of like ability to connect different math topics and think very deeply. And yeah, that's a very valuable process to go through.
So I first have a very quick question and then a more like involved question. First of all, do you guys have favorite numbers? And if so, what are they?
0.
I don't think I have one.
Maybe like 8.
Okay. And my second question, throughout this episode, you guys have been talking a lot about problems you enjoy thinking about, solving, and recently like even writing. So that kind of makes me curious. Are there any types of problems that you guys generally dislike, or have there been specific problems you have solved that you haven't really enjoyed solving? And if so, what are they?
I think questions just like with a lot of casework or like edge cases I have to deal with is because like sometimes it's such a nice question, but then there's like 50 cases I have to like manually check, and that kind of like ruins the kind of like fun elegancy to the problem.
So I probably dislike problems where it's like they aren't telling you the full story. Like if there's a problem and then there's just a part of the problem that's just completely unnecessary, and if you just took that part out, the problem would still be true. So I don't really like when that happens, because then it feels like it's not giving me like the purest form of the problem. But yeah, that's like one example.
So for me, I don't really like geometry problems. So like whenever we go to like team math competitions and people are like, oh, like I'll do the algebra, I'll do the combinatorics problem. I'm just like, I'll just do any problem that isn't geometry. So I don't really know why I don't like it. I don't know. I feel like I'm also kind of lazy, so like I don't like drawing things out and like having to like meticulously like analyze a picture. Like I just want to like write down my equations and like start like going at it. So at least for me, geometry is not it.
Yeah, I definitely do enjoy doing geometry more on GeoGebra than actually drawing it out.
Yeah, the great divide, geo versus not geo. So you mentioned earlier games, Laura. So I just wondered, what are some fun like math games like at MAP that you do at like MAP or when you're together? That I know there's like different card games and things like that. What is a favorite game each of you enjoy?
I mean, yesterday I got introduced to this new game called 163, which was like, 6 cards from a deck. You place them out, and you try to like make 163 with them. I think this is a fun play on the version 28 because math people, they're like super fast at, or 24, because they're like super fast at it, so like there's almost like no chance. But when there's like 6 cards, you have to think about it a little bit more. So we play this a lot, like at various times yesterday at the restaurant and other places, so I thought that was a lot of fun.
So something I discovered at MOP 2 years ago is like matchstick puzzles. So basically like you can represent like numbers kind of like on a clock if you have like the different like straight lines, and then you want to move like one of these straight lines / matches to like make a wrong equation true. And I thought that was super interesting, and then I brought that to I made that like a math team activity later on, and like the people like at my school also really like that, because I think like it's like definitely an interesting approach to do math. I just think it's really fun, and I think it's something like I never experienced before MOP, so I think just finding fun ways to like incorporate math, I think that's just super special.
Yeah, so there are like a lot of games, like card games and other things that I've played with other with people from the math community. But one thing I actually learned at MathFest yesterday was how to play backgammon, and that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think another fun game is a lot of people like to play a set. How that game works is that you have different shapes, different colors, and different like shading. And you have to all have the same color or all different colors, all the same shape or all different shapes, all the different types of shading or all different types of shading. And you have to like get sets as fast as possible. A lot of people are super good at this game, super fast. I'm a little bit slower at it, but like it's still pretty fun to look for and play. There's also a lot of like variants on it too that have come up in various places.
All right, well, we're getting close to the end. Does anyone have any other questions for our podcast hosts? All right, well, so if you want to finish or say your goodbyes or, or say your conclusion.
Yeah, so thanks so much, everyone. We had a really great time answering all the questions, and we hope everybody here also had a really fun time.
Yeah, and this live stream will go onto our YouTube channel, so definitely like look out for that and watch our videos.
Yeah, and yeah, as we mentioned earlier, like a lot of our episodes are based on viewer submitted questions. So if you want to submit any questions to us, feel free to do so. It's just at the MAA Curious Cube website. I'm sure in the recording there'll be like a link, and yeah.
So we'll post them on the MAA YouTube channel, and we'll give information about how to submit questions there. So thank you all for coming so much. We're so glad you could join us today.